Hey guys, it's Nabil from Topaz. Hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a very special announcement, and I am going to be announcing that we are partnered up with Michelin. This guy. Yes, we have now officially partnered up with Michelin. Michelin have been one of the companies that I've admired for many years, not just because this guy is very cool and the marketing is great, it's because more importantly their tires are fantastic, and I've always had on my personal cars Michelin tires all the way. I've been using Michelin for many years as a personal level, and now we can actually do something with them officially through Topaz. So to start it off, and you're going to be seeing a lot more with Michelin and Topaz, it's their Porsche, their 911 992 Carrera, and it's in a beautiful color. It's actually in Carrara white, which is a metallic color, and every year they change the livery. This year they have asked us to do it, and I thought, let's go something absolutely unique. We were going to go to TopazSkin, we were going to paint the whole thing in blue, but the only problem was we had limitations of what we can do and we can't do, because Porsche didn't want any parts removed of the car, they didn't want any blades getting anywhere near the car. We were very particular about what can and can't be done with this vehicle. So we had to really jig around exactly what we could and we couldn't do. So this video is actually quite interesting, because we managed to make a phenomenal end result, but it was a very challenging process. So I think you're going to really enjoy it, and I can't wait to show you the final result. Enjoy it.
As you can see, the car is now finished in a lovely Carrara white. Porsche are very keen on the car still looking this good when taking delivery off at the end of the year. So that's why it was so important for the car to come to a place like Topaz. Obviously, as it stands, the car is completely standard, but it gives us a blank canvas to create a masterpiece for Michelin. Because we have such a comprehensive in-house database of PPF designs, we can easily take those to produce coloured PPF sections for the areas like the front bumper. The process did have some challenges that you'll see later in the video, but the principle is exactly the same with our clear PPF. We're able to cut each section exactly the same on our plotter, so it fits perfectly on the car. Michelin and Porsche were very keen not to use blades anywhere near the car, which isn't something we do anyway, but that's the beauty of our BPF plotter. As you can see, the shape of the front bumper is pre-cut into the film, allowing Carl, our installer, to simply backroll the film onto the panel with every edge and aperture already cut out. The main drawback with coloured PPF, and the reason you haven't seen us use it before, is that it's so much thicker than a standard PPF, making it a lot harder to manipulate onto the car. That's why we've had to bring in the steamer into this project, just to heat up the film enough to give it enough stretch and for it to be malleable enough to fit around every curve on the car. We have to be very careful to line up areas like the tow hook cover to avoid leaving ugly white gaps. Once Carl is happy with the positioning, the film is squeegeed into place just like a clear PPF. This pushes any moisture bubbles from under the film and allowing it to adhere to the car. As I mentioned, another big challenge with this car isn't that we can't remove any PPF that it already has, so this is an added complication for installing our film, as it means we can't wrap around the edges in the way that we want to. And this is the reason why we weren't able to apply TopazSkin, which is obviously a preferred choice at the moment. The finishing touch from the bumper is to lock the edges down with warm air to prevent them from lifting. After just one panel is done, the car is already starting to look pretty epic, if I say so myself. To match the Michelin branding, we've also done the rear spoiler in yellow, but this next bit is just one of my favourite touches, to match the speedster concept that this car is inspired by. We're putting crosses on the headlights, again using PPF. I think it's such a cool touch that gives the car a bit more personality. Next, Carl's attempting the front wings. Again, to match the speedster, they need to follow a certain pattern. We've designed it onto the computer, but how things look onto a 2D screen versus how they come out on a 3D surface isn't always the same. In fact, to guarantee we've got this bit right, we actually do a test fit with clear PPF, making sure that everything is all good when we do it in real life. Again, the only way to get this colored film to work on a surface like this is by using a steamer, or simply the film just won't stay in place. I can already tell once this piece of film is in place, the car is going to look amazing. I'm not going to show you the finished result of the front just yet. Instead, we're going to be moving on to the decals and the logos on the car. This is a really important and is going to tie in essentially the car with Michelin. Steve, our installer, carefully measures up each side of the car. There's nothing worse than a livery that's misaligned or wonky. That won't work very well for my OCD. Just like with the front end, we actually have designed and produced all of our decals in-house on our plotter. This is useful as it means we can adjust and recut any bits as we go if needs be. On the doors, we're putting the word Michelin with the racing roundels, inspired again by Porsche heritage liveries. Steve carefully squeegees each letter down, making sure that they are correctly aligned before slowly peeling away the backing paper. Again, this looks like it's relatively simple, but it's a very difficult task in making sure that everything is done in the correct way. It's exciting to see the car is really starting to come together. We decided with Michelin to have even more touches all the way around the car, including the rear spoiler and the bonnet. Of course, we've had to have Michelin Man waving back at us right in there. So I've teased you all the way, now it's time to show you the epic finished result.
And there you have it, guys. That was the video of the Carrera being done, and what an awesome job it was. It's right here behind me. As you can see, it's been totally transformed as it was before. It looked like it was a standard Carrera. Now you can quite evidently tell it's a Michelin car. Anyway, let's go through some of the details, because it's one of those things where it looks great now, but to get to that stage, as I've shown you before, it was a very, very difficult stage to get to, because obviously, as I mentioned at the beginning, Michelin and Porsche have specifically said we cannot take anything off the car to basically create this livery, and that means also it's got paint protection film on the front, which we couldn't take off. So my obvious thing was to say, let's do TopazSkin, right? Because that's what's going to look the best. We couldn't do TopazSkin. Again, we couldn't take any parts off, no trims, nothing, and we couldn't even take off the PPF, so there's no way we're going to put TopazSkin on top of the PPF. So it was a real challenge to make sure that we get this finish with it looking like this now. Let's go through some of the details of exactly what we did and where we ended up with it. So the actual material that we use is almost like a colored PPF, but it works very differently to PPF, and also works very differently to a vinyl, because with the vinyl it's much thinner, so you actually have, it's much easier to get it around the corners and to heat lock it in, whereas this is a thicker product, so to actually be able to move it around and to get it to the shape that we need to get it to, you have to use steamers and you have to use different techniques in order so that you don't get any of the defects. Now, another thing with this product is that you get marks very easily if you don't know what you're doing. So that's why you saw the guys doing steamers. That's why you saw the guys making sure every single aspect of this is done to the perfect tolerances so that it looks as good as possible, but without removing anything. So if you see here, there's a slight white detail, and actually it works pretty well because it's such a uniform line, and because we're able to put this material on our plotter, and you were not cutting on the car at all. Again, this is one of the stipulated things on the car, to make sure that we don't cut on the car, which we never do anyway, but it's even more of a stipulation. The fact that this material had to be done on the plotter. So that's exactly what we did. We cut the material out on the plotter, we then cut the shapes out, and even down to this side here where you have tiny little gaps all the way through. As you can see, you can barely see there is white anywhere there. And that's very, very important, because to get that, it's essentially a pattern. We've actually essentially patterned this whole area and fitted it so that it works in this way. So it was a very, very big challenge for the guys, but I'm glad that we got to it at the end, and we're actually happy with the final result. It looks absolutely fantastic. Small details like this on the headlights, but we actually, this again, if you might see this, the whole livery is very, very heritage-esque. You know, you got on the Speedster Heritage Edition, then you have now the Targa Heritage Edition. These are all sort of now coming from the factory with this type of line going across with the front bumper. And actually, a fun fact, the reason why back in the day where they used to have the front bumper being colored is to hide any damage on the race cars. So they just paint it with basically paint to try to hide any of the defects. So then now going back to the defects, and what would happen is this area here, usually you'd have black tape going over this. And the reason why they would do that is to make sure if they did have a bump on the racetrack, then you wouldn't have any of the glass shattering everywhere. But we thought we'd do something slightly different. We applied satin PPF just to give it the effect of that, but at the same time make sure it looks fantastic and it's still working. So very, very important. I don't think we will get away with putting black tape on a road car. Then obviously down on the front here, you've got the Michelin man sitting there proud, waving at you. And then you're going down the side. Let's have a look at what we did down the side. Down the side, it was a bit of a different thing because we wanted to make sure we mimic the Porsche lettering down the side. That was very, very important to us. And obviously the designer is a Michelin. And I think we did a very good job in portraying it so it looks like a Porsche. So if you would just take a snapshot of this, you would go, ah, that's a Porsche. But obviously, it's got Michelin written there, and obviously the #1 being the #1 tyre brand in the world. So that's the bit on the side. Actually, one bit at the back that it's a small little detail that I want to show you is if this car goes past you on the motorway and it flies past you or wherever it is, you got the Michelin man at the back waving at you, saying, yes, that was me going past you at very, very fast speeds. But anyway, either that or on the track. But yeah, I think that was a cool little touch to have the Michelin man right at the back there, and obviously the spoiler with the yellow detail. Looks very, very cool. I'm very happy to be partnered up with Michelin because it's something that's always been, in my mind, the tire maker to go to make sure that we actually use, from my personal perspective, for any car I've ever owned, I've always had Michelin tires on it. So the fact that we were able to do this and now partner up with them, and there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to do with them. You're going to see this car on track in different events and things like that. So I'm super excited about the whole thing. But anyway, I thought you'd like seeing the whole process of this being done, because for me, it was fantastic seeing such a challenging job being completed by the team and it looking like this now. For me, it was a very, very proud moment. And I'm just glad that Michelin gave us the opportunity to work on the car, and I'm glad for the partnership. Anyway, I hope that you liked this video. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.